Coast.
Good afternoon, beautiful citizens of the borderland. I don't know where this finds you today, but you're somewhere on the borderland. Maybe you're cooking your dinner, getting ready for the weekend. Maybe you're happily enjoying the scenery along I-10 or 54 heading north up to the mountains for the weekend. But welcome to 915 Talk. And this is faith-based radio, and where we believe that God so loved the world, and that means that he loves the borderland and each of you who are listening today. And I say this every week, but it's always true. and this week, I feel like it's especially true. We have a very special guest. We're going to be talking El Paso. We're going to be talking early childhood education. We're going to be talking about a lot of interesting things. So my guest today is a native El Pasoan. He's the downtown El Paso Lions Club president. He is involved in so many different things, including I found somewhere on the World Wide Web that he organizes Salvation Army bell ringing. He manages the Thanksgiving Day Parade for El Paso, and he is the owner of the Flying Colors Learning Center, which has 5 locations around El Paso, serving about 780 children here in the borderland. So I'm super excited to have him today. So wherever you are, unless you're driving, don't do this. Do not clap if you're driving. But wherever you are, put your hands together for the one, the only, Mr. Mike Hicks.
That's a wonderful introduction. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you're not wearing the headphones. You didn't hear it, but we could hear on the radio all those people clapping all over the borderland. So welcome. Really happy to have you here today, Mike. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things. But before we get into this discussion about El Paso, before we talk about early childhood education, before we talk about the Thanksgiving parade, I have people everywhere around El Paso who inform me on my guests. So before we get into all that, I want you to tell me, what is the secret to good brisket?
Well, I got to tell you, you got to cook it slow, you got to smoke it, and you got to put that special seasoning in it.
Okay.
And as long as you cook it anywhere from 15 to 18 hours.
15 to 18 hours.
15 to 18 hours.
Okay.
And you get wonderful brisket.
15 to 18 hours. And are my informants correct when they tell me that you have a brisket truck?
I do. I have a brisket, and it's actually the property of the Downtown Lions Club.
Okay.
And one of the things that it will do is it will smoke up to 10 briskets at a time.
Oh, my.
And I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun to sit out with the guys and basically smoke it all night long, keep the fire going, and you just smell that meat all night long. When you get it up in the morning, I mean, you put some foil on it, you pack it, let it rest a little bit, and oh gosh, it just melts in your mouth as soon as you cut it.
So the Downtown El Paso Lions Club is the owner of a brisket truck.
Yes, it is.
This is truly Texas. I love it. So, okay. So, also, before we get into all of these other things, we have a staple of our program where it's rapid fire questions. Rapid fire questions. We're going to find out what you know, okay? And we call it the lightning round. So I want you to answer the questions just quickly. There are right or wrong answers, but we will not ridicule you too much if you give a wrong answer. So without further ado, Kenny on the board, hit up the lightning round. Lightning round. Okay, Mike, first question. And we had a few weeks where all the guests were really struggling with this question, so I'm going to give you a hint. This question has to do with food, and we are here on the border. The question is, red or green?
Green, all the way.
Okay.
You gotta have green.
Green, okay. And where is your favorite place in El Paso to answer the question, red or green?
L&J's.
L&J's! Yeah, you know, I tell people that I'm new to El Paso, so I enjoy interviewing people because I learn about the city. I'm just here to learn. But for the very first time, I went to L&J's recently, and that queso dip is it's a different level.
Oh, it's excellent.
Yeah, so L&J's, I love that. So next question. You have a guest visiting you from out of town. This is our hypothetical scenario. You have a guest visiting you. They are an honored guest. You want to really show them El Paso in a very good light. Where do you take them that's not a restaurant?
Probably up to Scenic Drive.
Scenic Drive, that's 3 weeks in a row.
I think it's wonderful. You get to see, you know, when we had the tramway, and all of those different activities up there, you got to see, you know, 2 countries, 3 different cities. I mean, it's just a wonderful opportunity for them to be able to take in. This is El Paso. You get to see it in all of its glory.
Right. Okay. All right. So I agree. I do the same thing. So next question. The main square in El Paso has a theme of an animal. What is that animal?
The alligator?
Yes, sir. Okay. Now here's the question. There's a sculpture of alligators in the middle of San Jacinto Plaza, the main square in El Paso. How many alligators are in that sculpture?
4.
No. You don't hear the applause. Kenny on the board's losing it. The answer is 3. It's okay. You weren't too far off. Okay, so also, next question. We're going to go biblical here. We are a Christian radio station. So, biblical trivia. So, after Judas went the wrong direction and then took his own life, the apostles got together and said, we have to have someone take Judas's place. What was that man's name?
Oh, God, you stumped me on this one.
Well, I didn't ask you what Moses' wife's name was, so you're
God, I don't remember now.
you know, but you remember the spot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's a name that's pretty close to the first book of the New Testament. Matthew is no, I stumped you. I put you on the spot. It's Matthias. Yeah. So okay. Then I'll ask you. I'll ask you an easier question. Why didn't Noah fish while he was on the ark?
It was all engulfed in all the fish were on the ark, or at least the 2 fish, I guess, that were going to survive.
He only had 2 worms, so it's a dumb joke. Yeah. All right. So final question. Don't worry. I'm going to get you out of this painful part of our program. So, final question. Let's say you had the opportunity to send a text message to everyone in the borderland. So that would be El Paso, Juarez, Chaparral, Las Cruces, and they would receive that text message in language that's most comfortable for them, English, Spanish, whatnot. What would that text message say?
Let go, let God.
I love it. Kenny on the board. Love it. Let go, let God. Okay, so let's get into, first of all, the Thanksgiving parade. It's not that time of year. Tell me, why does the Thanksgiving Day parade matter for El Paso?
It's an opportunity for hundreds of thousands of people to come down, get together, just to celebrate with each other the glory of all of the different floats that are made, all of the different opportunities for faith and fellowship. All of those happen during that day when families get together and they grab something to eat and they get to sit down and just enjoy themselves for a couple hours.
Right.
And it's something that has turned into a tradition. A lot of the houses on Montana, have people, and we went for years and years to get caldillo, to get menudo, to get donuts and coffee in the morning, and just relax for a day.
Right.
and enjoy the parade.
Okay. What is the route?
It starts at St. Clements.
Okay.
There on Montana, and
I
goes
like that.
all the way down to just before 54 in Montana.
Okay. I got you. So it's just through central El Paso.
Yeah, just about 3.5 miles.
And 3.5 miles. And how many floats are there?
Usually between 35 and 45.
Wow.
Pretty good size. Pretty good size floats. Some of them are big and elaborate. Mm-hmm. The electric company always does a wonderful float. The Sun Carnival, Sun Bowl Association themselves do fantastic floats. Mm-hmm. Of course, the Downtown Lions Club always does a couple floats. One
always does the best float, right?
Yeah. Well, we won the sweepstake more than any other organization.
Right.
So we won the top award. But it's always nice to see different things and to work on these things, because we get moving parts, we get monkeys and animals that go up and down on these floats, and it's amazing to see all the different things that they do based on the theme that the Sun Bowl Association comes up with.
So I had no idea it was that big. How long does it take for like you're standing in one position, the first group or float or whatever comes by? How long does it take for the whole parade to pass?
I want to say about 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Whoa!
Yeah,
about 2
because
hours.
we mix the floats with we've got wonderful organizations, dance organizations, car clubs. We've got wonderful bands from all over town. I mean, they last year for the longest time they haven't had UTEP, but last year they had UTEP band in it, which is near and dear to my heart because I've got a set of twin boys that are in the UTEP band, and they marched last year in the parade, and then you've got mariachis that come from all over El Paso. You've got horse groups that come from Mexico, and so it is a lot of fun, and people just enjoy it all the way down the route.
So the spectators they're sitting in lawn chairs. They aren't standing for 2 hours.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, they'll bring their lawn chairs. They bring their shade structures. Like I said, some of them even bring little grills. And cook, and they do all kinds of things. And you'll see any number of different groups going all the way down. And so the parade goes, and while they're getting ready for the parade, you've got kids playing throwing balls, footballs, and baseballs with their dad and their relatives. It's just a wonderful opportunity for them to get down there and enjoy the fellowship of each other.
Wow. Okay. Before I go on to the next question, I do want to remind the audience that we will take your questions. We will take your questions through text messaging. So do not send us a question if you're driving. Pull over. But the number for a text message, if you want to ask Mike a question or even comment, the number is 915-265-8489. 915-265-8489. Would love to hear some questions or comments. So right now we're in mid-June. The Thanksgiving parade is in November. When do you get started with the planning?
We actually it's already started. The Sun Carnival has a big warehouse, just off of Industrial, and they put together 10 to 12 of them, and then you've got various organizations around town that have already started. We have already cleared our float. And so now we're ready for the buildup of the float in the Lions Club.
Clear meaning you have to get permission.
Yeah, we have to get the theme from the Sun Bowl Association.
Okay.
So all of the floats are developed around a theme that they will have. Again, once we get that theme, well, then we turn in what we're going to do as far as the float is concerned to the Sun Bowl, and they approve it. Say, yeah, that sounds good. We're excited to see it.
Right.
And then we get started. So we tear down everything we did from last year, and we've got basically the trailer with all of the flat stuff on it, and then we start building it up based on, and it usually takes an architect kind of or a draftsman kind of putting together a general plan, and then you actually start from and it's building the float from the ground up.
So you actually have an architect designing this. It's not just some guys drawing something on a napkin.
Right. Yeah. No. Okay. Normally draftsman, architect kind of get involved, and. And they're the ones that keep us safe. And then the fire department gets involved and makes sure that you've got fire extinguishers, that your exhaust pipe comes out of the apparatus.
Right.
You've got so it goes through a number of inspections over the next 2 or 3 months. But yeah, once you get to that point, it actually it goes pretty quickly.
Wow. Okay, so can you tell us what your theme is this year, or is it a secret?
We don't know yet. We don't have it yet.
Okay. What was it last year?
Oh gosh, I think it was rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll, and
Okay.
I can't even remember exactly what we've done. We've done so many of them, but it's again. Ours typically has a lion involved somewhere in the rock and roll thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
And in the past, they've had Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
And so we have floats that have a lot of the Mardi Gras themes, kind of interwoven throughout the float. And then you get judged on creativity. You get judged on the amount of work it looks like it went into any number of different things. And that in and of itself is a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because typically, not only do you have the builders of the floats, but you have people that are going to ride on the floats all the way down through the parade. So based on the theme, I mean, you have, like I said, when they had Mardi Gras a couple of years ago, I mean, we had people dressed in, and the outfits were made, and they're dressed in all kinds of Mardi Gras things. And
Wow.
it's just a lot of fun.
Did you? How many spectators did you say show up?
There's usually between 250 and 300,000.
Wow. Is there any event in El Paso that's bigger than that?
None bigger. None bigger.
It's
Yeah,
the biggest event in El Paso, and you somehow have to organize the chaos, I assume. What is the most difficult thing about organizing a Thanksgiving Day parade?
Well, it's just you've got to go down there on the day of the parade, because there's sometimes people that will scratch and they don't show up, or this group is not here. And so as you're putting the groups in order, you have the bands coming in from one street, you have the horses, of course, coming in from the lot right across from St. Clement's. You've got we try to keep the floats on actual Montana, and so we try to get them kind of located the day before. But sometimes a float will break down, and so you have to call to the front and scratch it, and you have to move the other floats around it, and so I guess it's really organized chaos at the beginning. But we've got a wonderful group of volunteers every year from the Sun Bowl Association, like I said, from the Lions clubs, different people, and they've been doing it. Some of these, like myself. I'm going on, 36, 37 years.
Wow.
And so with that kind of continuity, you got Joe Dubach and Bernie Olivas from the Sun Bowl Association that are, they've been doing it a long time also. So it actually runs pretty smoothly.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I love just all the community involvement, a celebration together. I believe that's part of just healthy community.
Oh yeah, and there's always some different highlights. I mean, from time to time, and I'm trying to remember if we had them last year, but we had the Budweiser Clydesdales.
Oh wow!
Which is a big coup for El Paso,
Sure.
because not every float every parade in the United States is trying to get them, and we typically get them pretty much on a yearly basis. And
Wow.
so that is a big favorite. If you've never seen one of the Bloods, the Clydesdales up front, up close, they are, they're wonderful horses. They're big.
They're as big as they seem on TV.
They're monsters.
Yeah. I have an idea, just spitballing here, but maybe for a future parade you could get the Budweiser Frogs.
Yeah.
So, that's wow. I feel like we could talk this entire time about the Thanksgiving parade, but we won't. Let's move along to early childhood education. So you are the owner of the Flying Colors Learning Center. You have 780 children in 5 locations. And am I right in understanding this was your dream as a child to grow up and run a learning center for young children?
Well, it actually wasn't a dream. My mom started the first center in Northeast El Paso in September 1st, 1961.
Okay.
And she did a wonderful job for years and years and years. I still bump into families today that most of them grandparents that say, "Gosh, my kids went to your center with your mom when they were right out of the hospital." I was there right out of the hospital. So I'm 61 now. I was there 3 days right out of the hospital.
Wow. And then you're helping out, or
what happened is I graduated from Texas A&M. And when I graduated, my mom called me and said, "Hun, I'd like for you to come, run the center."
Yeah.
And at that time, it was just the one center. And I said, no, Mom, I don't want to.
Well, what were you studying at Texas A&M?
I actually studied agricultural economics.
Okay,
So I'm set up to
that's
be
a good fit.
a glorified farmer. And so to a
wait,
certain
hold on.
extent, I'm...
So you were studying agricultural engineering at Texas A&M after leaving El Paso. Does that mean you were not planning to come back to El Paso?
That means I wasn't planning to come back.
Okay.
I had a pretty good job kind of lined up in Dallas. And
Okay.
when she called me, I was a couple months away from graduating, and I said, no, Mom, I don't want to. And she said, no, honey, you'll do great. Come on back. And I said, Mom, I don't want to. And she said, hon, just come on back. Try it for a year. If it doesn't work, I mean, it's not a good fit for you. We can sell it, and we'll go on from there. Got to tell you, I came back, and it was the hardest 3 years of my life. I could tell you all kinds of stories because, again, my mom did a wonderful job, but she didn't upgrade the facilities. It needed a lot of work, and again, it was just extremely difficult. But I got to tell you, it was some of the hardest work, but most enjoyable work I've ever done.
Okay. All right, let me just go back one step here. I have to ask again about the agricultural engineering. Was this your plan, like in your 18-year-old mind, to get out of El Paso?
Well, the craziest thing, I wrote a paper when I was at A&M, and it was on shrimp farming. And that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And so I even thought about the possibility of doing it in El Paso because we're halfway between Houston and California, and I thought, this is going to be a good fit. We can actually do shrimp farming and the viability of it. The problem with is you can't get the water. The water's the most important thing in that, and the circulation of the water and the cleaning of the water and all those different things. And El Paso was just going to be too cost, ineffective to be able to make it work. And so that was kind of the outside.
So the idea wasn't escape from El Paso, go see the world.
No, it was. I've always loved El Paso. I mean, my dad was a politician for 46 years, and I got to tell you, it's probably one of the. Well, I don't want to say one of the only, but one of the honest politicians that you would ever meet. He was a wonderful guy. People loved him. Every time we grew up, we would go to restaurants, and for 30 minutes, I mean, we wouldn't even see my dad. My mom would say, hon, what do you want to get? And he'd tell her, and then he'd be around the restaurant just talking to everybody. And I mean, this was like, and every time we went somewhere, he knew 95% of the people in every restaurant, in every venue, and just loved to talk to people.
What was his political?
He was a tax assessor, if you can imagine.
Okay.
He was a tax assessor, and
like for property taxes.
Yes. Well, he was the city tax assessor for years, for 22 years, and I think the county tax assessor for 24 years after that. Okay. And he enjoyed doing it. It was a job that he enjoyed. He got to meet people. He got to go out and politic. Won 9 different elections over that time frame, and I still remember standing outside of Liberty Hall where you go to vote, and back then, and handing out flyers when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and, it was just something that we had to do, as part of getting my dad elected.
Okay.
And it was a different lifestyle, but it was something that he really enjoyed doing. Okay. And he enjoyed, again, it would come back to helping people. Just enjoy.
Well, I feel like we could talk a lot about tax assessment in El Paso, but we will refrain at this time. But that's super interesting. So your dad's a tax assessor. Your mom is running this daycare. You're considering shrimp farming. Let's fast forward. It's the hardest 3 years of your life. You're back. You're in the it's called a learning center, and we'll talk about that. But at the time, it probably wasn't called something.
It was called Atlas Child Care.
Atlas Child Care.
Atlas Street, Atlas in Northeast El Paso.
Okay.
Atlas Child Care, and that's what she named it at the beginning, based on the street that we were on.
Okay.
And that was our goal, to see if we enjoyed it and wanted to continue doing it.
So for 3 years, you worked on updating the facility?
updating this facility, again, meeting with parents, upgrading what we did. I mean, a lot of the things that we do now in the daycare centers is the same things she did back then.
Okay.
It just it has fancy curriculum names associated with it.
Right.
So she always did what, and I, a great deal of respect for what she did, because she basically said, okay, I'm going to figure out what's best for these kids, and we're just going to do it.
Okay.
And figure out what they need, where they're. And so a lot of the things that she did back then, we do now, and it has to do with any number of different areas. But it was, like I said, we have fancy names for it now, but back then she just said, well, we're just going to figure out what the kids will do. Same with our menu.
Right.
We serve some of the same menu items that we served 60 years ago.
Okay.
And it's because
tater tots. What are we talking here? Sloppy Joes, hoagies and grinders.
She actually makes rolled tacos.
Rolled tacos.
And it is the craziest thing, because we'll get parents every week that will say, okay, give us the recipe for your tacos. And I always tell them, it's a secret recipe. We can't tell you. But I mean, the kids they just love them. And I got to tell you, they are extremely good.
You are the Colonel Sanders of early childhood lunches in El Paso.
Well, the key is, as you know, is to make sure that you can get the nutrition for the kids and make sure that it's something that they enjoy eating. And so they got to like the way it looks, they got to like the way it smells, and they got to like the way it tastes. And so
Right.
it is an art to actually put together that. And my mom did all of the work. And so, again, a lot of the stuff that she served back then, we serve now in different forms.
Love that.
We still, gosh, my son Taylor butchers a cow, and we get organic beef every 2 months.
Wow.
500 pounds of organic beef.
Yeah.
And that's what we serve at the daycare center.
How long does it take for 780 children to go through 500 pounds of organic beef?
Right about a month and 3 weeks.
A month and 3 weeks. We have an exact number. I got you.
And he would do our milk also, because he milks cows.
Uh-huh.
And we would get the milk from him also, except that we go through 100 gallons a week. And so
Okay.
he just can't. He can't produce that much milk at this point.
Okay, yeah, and the shrimp you have to fly in.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
So this is interesting because I've been to your facility, the new one out on Helen of Troy, and it's super modern. Obviously, a very nice facility, and it started off in this very simple location on Atlas Street. And what were some of the curriculum things that your mother was using that you then adopted that you're using today?
Well, some of the things that she did from the standpoint of reading is she wanted to make reading fun. Mm-hmm. And so she wanted to make sure that when we do a reading activity, that it isn't just a teacher reading to a class. We can do a large book activity. We can do an activity where they've got flannel boards and the kids are telling a story through that. We can have some of the older kids come in and read with some of the younger kids.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And all these things, when they tell you that, the state will come in and say, well, you need to do this kind of a reading, this kind of a reading. And we say, but we already do this, and this. And they're all like, okay, well, let me take notes so we can take that back to the other centers that we deal with, because those are really good ideas.
Right.
And so that's just one area of reading. But the other thing that she was adamant about is all of our centers have large outside play yards.
Okay.
And she was adamant about kids doing healthy things.
Right.
So I can still remember to this day, they don't let us do it anymore. She would get old tires, and she would, tell us, the boys, and all these kids, say, let's have races with the tires. And we were saying, what, Mom? And she'd say, oh yeah. And then she'd say, okay, put some dirt in the tires. And so we'd have dirt in the tires. We'd be flying around this yard, and of course, in 5 minutes, you couldn't see anything because of all the dirt and the dust and everything else. And so we're in our swimsuits, and we're solid, covered in dirt. And she'd say, okay, are we done? Did we have enough fun? And so we didn't realize it, but we're running around this yard, 10, 15 times. And so we get back and get all the tires. She says, okay, get the tires against the fence. And then we had water playtime. Right. And the water playtime was us squirting each other with the hoses to get all the dirt off. Uh-huh. And so these activities were all things.
Do you still do that?
They don't let us do it anymore.
Oh,
let us do
that's
some
the
of these.
government regulating away all the fun.
Oh yeah, it's just crazy. Back then she used to have mulberry trees, which don't even allow in El Paso anymore.
We don't allow mulberry trees?
We don't allow mulberry trees because of the amount of water that they use.
Oh.
So nevertheless, she would have these.
Is that what that checkpoint is for up on 54? Keeping the mulberry trees out?
It might be. It might be. But I mean, she used to let us climb the trees. And I mean, the state won't even let us get close to a tree these days. We got to make sure the branches are cut high enough up to where the kids can't climb in the trees. And so it was just a different era. But the neat thing about it is, she made sure that I understood, okay, these are what we're getting out of these activities. These are what the kids are getting out of it. And you need to, if they don't let you climb trees these days, what do you do now? Well, you can go to our centers, and Helen of Troy is getting theirs done this summer. And we have an inside play yard. We have a small climbing wall. And I thought, shoot, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you see these kids, I mean, they're climbing on the walls. And she was adamant about making sure that we're not only affecting their mental, all the different emotional, all the different areas that we deal with, but she also wanted to make sure that they could continue to be active, continue to use their arms, their legs, all these different things. And it was just a place that, even growing up, we looked forward to going to every day. We knew we were going to go there, and we said, okay, Mom, what time are we going?
Yeah.
And that's what we want to see out of our parents now. If we're doing those different types of things, and the teachers are putting those additive learning activities throughout the day, then we're going to be successful.
Right.
Even if we sometimes don't even know what they're doing. When I say that, some of the teachers are still learning all these different things. Just do it. Don't worry. You'll see what they get out of it. And then they say, wow, that really worked. That was really cool. And so then they start putting additional things. It's really amazing to see them go from starting a program to actually, learning.
Okay. Very good. So we need to take a break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about computers and how important they are for young children to have as much as possible. And so, but Mike is crawling out of his skin right now, but he can't wait for this break to be over. But we're going to talk about computers and children. Let's go to the break. Do not touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
Hey, El Paso and Southern New Mexico. Thank you for listening to 915 Talk. KELP Christian Radio would love to just build a relationship with you, hear from you, get your feedback on all of the programs. You can send your feedback by going to the contact form at kelpradio.com and just sending us a note, letting us know what programs you love, and that really helps us as we pray for the future. Also, please be sure to follow us on Facebook. You'll find us at the page is called KELP Christian Radio, and just hit that follow button, and then you can keep up with the latest station news. Finally, and probably most importantly, go to kelpradio.com and look for that 915 pray link, especially if you've been missing the 9:15 a.m. and 9:15 p.m. prayer for the 915. Listen to a few of those prayer requests and join us in prayer. Let's continue to pray together and believe together for our region.
We're back. You're listening to 915 Talk.
We are back, and you are listening to 915 Talk. We are live right now on June 14th, 2024, from the KELP studio right here in El Paso, Texas. We are with the one, the only Mike Hicks. We've been talking about early childhood education, and before we went to the break, I was told, I said that we're going to be talking about the importance of computers when it comes to early childhood education. But before we get into that, Mike really wants to talk about that. But before we get into that, I totally forgot a whole thing I wanted to ask. The Lions Club. What is the what do you guys do?
It's a service club.
Okay.
One of the oldest service clubs here in El Paso. And basically, we figure out if there's needs in the community, and then we try to fill those needs. So right now, a lot of the schools don't have money for nurses. Okay, how is that important? Well, they have a nurse for maybe 4 or 5 schools. Well, one of the things that the nurses do every year is they do with the 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, they do hearing and vision testing.
Okay.
And so that can't be done. So our Lions Club, led by Susan Driscoll, a wonderful person in our club, and we basically have the staff, and we go out and we actually do the Vision and Learning Center to the schools free of charge.
Okay.
And those things are important because we may only catch 2 or 3 kids that may have some problems in those areas, but the quicker you catch them and get them referred to a doctor,
right,
the quicker you have the opportunity to get that corrected. So we look for opportunities in El Paso to that the need is there and see how we can fill that need.
Okay, so you said Susan Driscoll. So it's not just a men's club?
No.
Okay. In my mind, I'm picturing only men.
No.
Okay.
It used to be men for years and years, and a while back we let women in, and there were some of our members in the club said this is going to be the downfall of this club, I guarantee. And again, it's been a wonderful blessing.
Right.
The women that we've got in our club are some of the most active workers, active participants. It's just been a wonderful blessing.
What do you guys do when you get together other than like the brisket truck?
The brisket, well, we have meetings a couple times a month, and we have lunch. We'll typically have different speakers around town. I mean, we'll have the mayor come in and the county judge. The county is looking at a new bond issue. So we'll typically try to get someone from the county that will come in and talk to our 25, 30 members at a lunch meeting and kind of give us a little bit of the input of what's going on. Where is some of these things that you all are having trouble with? And then again, we have a lot of people in the club that can give valuable input back to the county.
So you get together, you have lunch, you hear about what's going on in the community. Now, to get into the Lions Club, are there any like weird initiation
no
rituals?
Weird initiations. Yeah, no,
you don't do any of that.
No, it's a basic initiation. And there's nothing out of the ordinary. We'll wear some vests that are bright yellow.
Okay.
But other than that, it's just a basic thing talking about Lions International, some of the things we do, some of the things that our club does or the Lions do in the state of Texas, and some of the things that the Lions do here in El Paso and how we have been a part of that. And the neat thing about it is our club has sponsored a lot of the other clubs here in town, and they've taken off and done their thing. In the state of Texas, there's a camp for kids with special needs, Down syndrome, diabetic kids, children with different handicaps that they may come into this. And again, they go down there and spend a week or 2 and learn all kinds of life skills. And so you get kids that we take down there and pay for their transportation, and they go into it, and some of them have never been away from a house. They come back and they are completely different children. It is an amazing program, and it's something that we continue to support.
So that was kind of my question. Is your work in the community, is it mainly you're putting money together, or are you physically going somewhere and...
A little of both. We've worked with Habitat for Humanity and built a house several years ago.
Okay.
With the men and women in our club, we do a golf tournament every year and have done it for 23 years.
Okay.
And we raise between $8,000 and $10,000, and that is money that we use to do some of these different projects and to give back to the community.
Right.
When there's a need.
Okay. Well, very interesting. Hear about the Lions Club, but I know you really want to talk about the importance of computers for young children. Get them those devices as soon as possible. Is that your philosophy at Flying Colors Learning Center?
Flying Colors Learning Centers all are non-technology zones. There are no technology at all other than the administration of the center at our centers all the way through the age of 5.
Okay.
It is completely banned. I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, I think everybody will do that. If I could stand from the mountaintops and yell it, I would tell them, please do not give your kids phones, tablets, anything along those lines through the age of 5. Let their brain develop. Let them learn and play and do all those different things that they need to do. no time, no need whatsoever for computers to be in these children's lives.
Okay. So how do you feel that inhibits their ability to learn?
They've done studies, and they're continuing to do studies, and what they'll find that even though a tablet, a phone, will hold a child's attention because of the colors, because of the different movements and all those different things that happen on a phone, those addictive behaviors are wonderful for keeping someone's attention, but there's zero brain development. There's nothing happening in their brain. And through the age of 5, that is what we want to do, is we want to make sure that these children are getting all that they need for proper brain development.
So you said at your center you have like flannel graph.
Yeah. What we do?
What are you? So what we're talking about, what you don't do. Tell me a little bit more about what you do.
Well, reading. So reading is one of the important things that we do in all of our classes. So a teacher can read a story to kids and kind of ask them questions, and that's the way they go back and forth. A teacher can do a big book, and again, while she's going through or narrating a story, she can point out different things. She can ask kids to get up and point out different things on that. A flannel board is another way to read, and they can tell a story through a flannel board. They can talk about, okay, well, the kids came out of the cabin. Okay, and you've got a cabin here, and who wants to put Jill walking down the road? And so one of the kids will get up and put Jill walking. So they participate in the story. So they get to taste it, they get to feel it, they get to hear it. And so all of those things are so much more important for a brain development, for a child going through those different situations. So from a learning standpoint, that is our job at the daycare center, is to put these kids in as many learning environments as they can, and their brains are like sponges. I mean, they just take in everything. But computers and phones, God, it is the. And again, if you would have asked me this question 20 years ago, I would have said, I don't know anything about this stuff. I don't have any doctorate behind my name. Right. I don't have any masters. I don't have any of this. But now it's been 38 years, and I can tell you that every time that I see kids, and it's at a restaurant. I mean, I was at a restaurant, 2 weeks ago, and I'm sitting there talking with my wife and my 2 boys that are still at home, and we're at the restaurant. We're in the waiting area talking, and we're talking to each other. And I look across from it, and there's a grandmother, a little boy, a little girl, a mom, and a dad, and they all had phones except for the grandmother. And she looked at me, and I said, "It's kind of frustrating, isn't it?" And she said, "I cannot get them off these phones and learn to talk anymore." So the craziest thing is, I'm having a conversation with this grandmother, and she knows what I'm just learning, that this is crazy what we're putting these kids in. They don't know how to communicate with each other. They don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to express their feelings to each other. And then we wonder why we've got so many of these things going on. I'm not an expert and can say, this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. I can tell you that there's no learning when they use these tablets, phones at these early ages.
What age do you start introducing devices, and how do you do that?
Well, I want to follow basically the public school model. And the public school model is kids start first grade at 6 years old. And a lot of people don't realize, why do kids start at first grade? Well, there's not just there's a physiological. Their eyes start to focus in it better when they get to that point. Okay. So reading is made easier for children at that. So there's a number of different reasons that children started school at 6 years old for years and years. But now, like I said, we're putting them in schools and all these different things, and we're trying to figure out how we can do it. Well, why not use a method that we've done for 63 years, which is play with the kids. That's how they learn. Put them in situations where they can learn any number of different things, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, let them learn to use their words when they want to communicate. And it's just something that's turning into a lost art.
Right. And your center, your day starts around 9 in the morning, goes to about noon, and after lunch they're off, or how does that work?
Well, our centers start at 5:30 in the morning. We open at 6, and we've got a wonderful military presence in El Paso that I can't tell you how many times over the years they've got to be to work at 6. And so, I mean, we'll open up at 5:45 during those times. The military will bring their kids in. They go and do that, and sometimes they will pick them up, 2, 3 in the afternoon. But for the most part, our centers run from 6 to 6, Monday through Friday, And it is it's a wonderful, dedicated staff that you've got to get to be able to work those long,
Do you
hard
have
hours.
the same person from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
No.
Okay.
It's all in the 8-hour shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't want to put someone in that position.
Because I'd last till about 5:57 a.m.
Well, when I started, it was, I told you those first 3 years were hard. Well, I had to come in the morning and learn how to cook breakfast, and I had to learn how to, do transportation schedules, and I had to learn. I thought I graduated from A&M, flagship university. Mom,
Right.
let me run this place. And she said, no. You're going to work in the infant room. Oh, and then, after a couple months, I said, Mom, you're going to work in the 1-year-old room. And you're going to. So I worked in every room for those first 2 years, and I never even did any management stuff.
Right. Well,
just learned
working in
how-
the infant room, that's sort of like shrimp farming. But
A little bit.
Anyway, dumb pun. But so I wanted to go back to that moment in time. So hardest 3 years of your life. At what point did you decide this is what you want to invest at least a number of your years of your life in, and why did you make that decision?
Well, and it really had to do with the kids. When I first got there, I believed my mom. I know that she had done it for years and years, and she enjoyed it. But I didn't get to see it for myself until I actually saw kids that had been with us for those 3 years, and I thought, wow, they're really doing well now, and and then they would go to school and they'd come back and they'd have A's, and they'd be, and I thought, wow, what we're doing really does work. It's crazy. Because I knew it, I was taught that, but I didn't believe it. So after those first 3 years, I thought, man, this is crazy hard work, but it is amazing to see these kids go from, when they first start at the center to actually, growing and developing and doing all those different things that you see these little kids do.
Yeah.
And it was really eye-opening for me, and something that was extremely rewarding. And so, again, your parents will always tell you, find jobs that you love, and it's never a job. It's just something
Right.
that you do every day and enjoy. And that's really what it turned into.
Right. Okay. When we were on break, you were mentioning a study from UTEP that the center's involved in. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, UTEP is working on a grant, and they're going to do some research on early childhood development in El Paso, basically for UTEP and the state of Texas, and it's a nice compliment that they picked our centers to help do that research. But again, what they're going to do is a lot of the things that I talked about, children learning through play and not having computers and all those things, UTEP wants to actually put research behind it and show the difference in a classroom, and show the difference in stress levels for kids, and show the difference in how all of these things work and how they are effective if they're done correctly. And so we're excited to be part of it. But it is it's a wonderful partnership with us and the community college and UTEP. And again, to me, it's extremely rewarding, because I've been doing this for a long time, and it seems like the child development in El Paso was just not ever where it should be. And so I'm
Right.
excited now that it's getting more attention, and whether it's going to be just for the benefit of our kids at the centers, but for the benefit of all these kids in El Paso, and child development as a whole in El Paso, I think will improve as they continue. We're working with community college and UTEP on. They're putting together a curriculum where someone can go in and start at community college and then finish at UTEP, and it's a degree for educators for 0 to 5-year-olds.
Okay.
Which is something that's badly needed, that we've needed it for years. But it basically is more along the child development side, because those are what the 0 to 5-year-olds, that's where they are, a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And it is it is really cool, because I think I touched a note, with UTEP, because one of the things that she asked me early on was, she said, "So you really believe this is the best thing for kids?" And I said, No. I don't think the daycare centers are the best thing for kids. I was always taught, and I still believe, that if you could have parents stay home with these kids and be able to educate them, themselves,
Right.
I think that is by far the best way to do this. But I realize in this day and age, you can't. Parents don't have the ability. Sometimes they don't have the want to. Any number of, like my wife, she's wonderful with the kids, but she says, I can't keep them at home and educate them. They punch holes in me, And I said, I understand what you're saying, hon. So
Right.
I was always taught, and my mom said this very on, the best thing for these kids is to be with their parents. okay, we want to be the next best thing when they're not able to do that. And so that's what I've always kind of, and UTEP said, really? And I said, really? And so, again, it was just, it was nice that I touched on themes that UTEP was thinking, but no one ever wants to say.
Right. So your curriculum is used, of course, in your centers. Is anyone outside of your centers using your curriculum?
Well, yes and no, because we use some of the curriculums that are, that are quote unquote required to get certifications from the state of Texas. And one of the certifications for child cares is the Texas Rising Star. And the Texas Rising Star is a quality certification that you'll get from the state. They come in and inspect you and make sure the teachers have training, to make sure the classrooms are set up correctly, to make sure that you're doing all those different things that you're supposed to be doing with these kids. And if you do everything well, you have an opportunity to get 4 stars and be a Texas, a 4-star Texas Rising Star, which all of our centers, did that testing, and all of them are, except for Helena Troy at this point, because we haven't had the test done. It should be done in the next month or two. But nevertheless, the neat thing about that is the state is coming in and saying, let's do that. So as part of that, they provide, or they help provide, Frog Street curriculum, CSI Engage, CLI Engage, different curriculums. But the neat thing about it is we're able to put curriculums that we've used over the years and kind of mix it together to figure out, okay, when they say we need to be with these students for this amount doing this time, we always have said, well, no, I think it's better if we limit it back a little bit and we'll do it this time, and so we adjust our schedules. So the neat thing about the program is that when you've got wonderful staff like I have, that some of them have been with us over 20 years, they can add different pieces of curriculums that we've had over the years or we've developed, and basically to mix them to figure out, okay, what's working best for us now.
Okay, so children very well. I think that's safe to say. And El Paso very well. We have a program here on KELP. It's called 915 Pray. And at 9:15 a.m. and 9:15 p.m., 915, we pray for the borderland, something for the city, whatever the case may be, just different topics. What would your prayer be for the children of El Paso?
That they would be put in good, loving environments, both at home and at schools that they go to be able to grow and develop and to be able to reach their full potential. And it's again, I've lived in El Paso all my life, and I feel like that, unfortunately, we've been shortchanged in a number of different areas over the years, and that's another whole topic. But I think that sometimes our kids don't get the credit they deserve for.
The kids don't get the credit they deserve
for all the hard work that they do and all that they accomplish.
Right.
So many times it's relegated to athletics, and again, athletics is not the only indicator of how successful a child is. And so I think El Paso hopefully will start to gain a little more knowledge, gain a little bit more confidence in our early childhood programs, and the different help that you can get out there when you are a parent in need and need help with those first 5 years of life. That El Paso will continue to work on those areas and continue to give these kids opportunities to be the best they can be. And we get to see that. We just had graduations at all of our centers, and we celebrate everything. So we celebrate when they graduate from a 3-year-old program to a 4-year-old program, or a 4-year-old to kindergarten, or kindergarten to first grade. And it is the coolest thing. I mean, they get up there on the stage and they sing and they dance. And I constantly tell parents, it is the coolest thing to see them, because I have the benefit of seeing some of these kids when they were little bitty infants.
Right.
And now I'm seeing them up there and they're dancing and they've got all kinds of confidence. And I thought, we've done pretty good.
I love that. Love that. Yeah, we're as we're preparing for next week for 915 Pray, we're praying for unchurched youth. The following week we'll be praying for VBSs, Vacation Bible Schools that churches are running. And when I was talking to the host of 915 Pray, he was just talking about how blown away he was, because we have people from the community come in and lead those prayers. And they were talking about how 13, 14-year-olds are struggling with drug addiction, even running into young teenagers who are not just addicted to drugs, they're already dealing drugs. And that's where we're at right now. And you wonder what went wrong and where. And as the body of Christ, as a church, we know to pray, but what else can we be doing?
Well, I agree with you 100%. That is the first and most important step is to pray about it. And then I think we need a lot more people to seek God's will. And if they have an opportunity to help others, whether it be children, whether it be other individuals, that they need to go out and do it. Go out and give it a try. It's amazing the amount of pleasure that they will get in helping others. Yeah. And sometimes it's financial, and sometimes people don't have financial, but sometimes it's actually getting and working, find out things that you want to do, whether it's the Lions Club or there's different organizations. The Rotary Club in town is wonderful. So there's different organizations for guys. There's a different one for women, but I would tell you that I again firmly believe it starts with prayer. And so many times we want to think, okay, now we're in trouble, so we need to go to church. Well, that's something that you need to go to first, and get surrounded with other believers, and see, what is God pushing you, pulling you, telling you to do. And it is again, I know part of your story, Andy, but missionaries are near and dear to my heart because my son Taylor and his wife Katie, have been missionaries for years and years with the YWAM organization. But again, the neat thing about it is I don't think the daycare centers would have made it 10 years ago had God not intervened.
Right.
And it got to that point with the daycare centers where I said, God, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, I mean, I love what I'm doing, but can't support my family, can't do some of the different things that we need to do. We're not getting, I don't feel like, any better because I'm just trying to survive. And so, God, you either got to turn this around or I need to figure out what else you want me to do. And it is the craziest thing. I can tell you within 3 months of that, some things happened at the center that it's amazing, the amount of turnaround, and kept us from going under to being, again, quote unquote, highly successful.
Right.
And I like I said, it's a God story, and I'm anxious to tell anybody that wants to listen about these stories. But like I said, it's something that people need to hear sometimes. That even quote unquote people that they think are successful businessmen, and they tell me that at our Bible study all the time. Mike, you're doing really good now. And I said, yeah, it only took me 38 years to get to that point. And again, it had to take God to get us to a point where we were continuing to be able to do that.
I love it. And Mike, I feel like we could talk for another hour. The timer shows me we're already past time. Loved having you come in. Would love to talk to you again some other time. I know this was super beneficial for those listening today. This will play again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And if anyone's listening and they would like to share this time with Mike Hicks with anyone, you can look starting on Monday at the KELPradio.com website. Look up the 915 Talk and listen to the program. Thanks for listening. You have been listening to 915 Talk on KELP Christian Radio. To listen to past recordings of 915 Talk, just visit KELPradio.com and click on the 915 Talk link. Until next time, love your neighbor, love your city, and give God all